just played Toward the Sun from the band Flook, and Sarah and Brian are with us from Flook. Now, to me, listening to that, it's traditional, yet at the same time, there was kind of a contemporary feel about it too. Is that kind of what you're aiming for, or do you go more to the traditional route?
Well, my background is in traditional Irish music, and but from my mid-teens, I started dabbling in the dark art of composing, and so for the last 30 years, I've been kind of writing as in tandem with performing, and I think that when you as you go deeper into your life, you go deeper into writing and music, and so it's inspired by the people that we meet, the places we visit, and I think maybe that's kind of where that peripheral palette, sonic palette comes from. It's not really, you couldn't really say that it was traditional Irish or traditional English, or which was when we started, it was a lovely little. It was like I inhabited an island in between somewhere, and
because as a band you've been together since I think the mid-90s, with a little brief spell away in between.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, we've been going since 1995. We just discussed that, so we remembered. Wow. It's quite a long time ago, 27 years.
And so, okay, for the past 27 years as Flook together, tell us about your growth and just what has it been like for 27 years?
Well, I suppose we did have a little pause for 4, 5, 10 years. Until I had a baby daughter, she's now 15. We've got 5 Flook children with us today on this at this festival. We didn't have any when we last played at Cambridge Folk Festival in 2003.
Oh, so you have played at the Folk Festival before?
I think, we definitely played in 2003, most recently. Mm-hmm. I think we've played before that as well.
We played, way back near the start.
Yeah, maybe 1995.
Wowzers. What was it like back then? Much smaller? More traditional? Has it really changed a lot?
I think it seems refreshingly familiar. Everything is just as I remember it. It seems a bit smaller than I remember it. But
was our friend the Fox there back in the 90s? The little fox, wicker fox or whatever he is, with his little fiddle underneath his chin?
I think he could have been, or it was a wicker man, but it was either one or the other.
We were chatting to someone actually who he sort of works here as a supervisor with all of the camping site, and he said there's a few changes this year, but actually no one likes the changes. Everybody likes the Cambridge Folk Festival to be the same.
I think they moved a few years ago. They moved the Fox by about 2, possibly 3 metres. There were complaints. Not in its usual spot.
Well, there you go.
So the tradition sort of comes, it's not just in the music. It's where everything's set out.
After these fallow years, I can't imagine many people will be, or maybe they will be complaining, but yeah, I'm just grateful for to be back together again.
Like a good complaint. Yeah. But Brian, the Irish accent is clearly there. Do you base it, where are you actually based though these days?
I'm based at home in Armagh. Yeah. Yeah, I lived all over the place for various. The call of home is a powerful.
I asked the question. I spent the last couple of weeks in Ireland, and part of the time in Doolin and Dingle, and quite a bit of traditional music, as you might expect, played in the pubs in the evenings.
That's right.
But it seemed to be for the visitors. We didn't see too many. Maybe we ended up in the tourist spots, so we should have gone way deeper into the country, although we were pretty deep. But I don't know. Do you think that the Irish music is healthy and in its traditional side?
I think that it's it was very healthy for a long time. It was leading from the front, and then it settled into a bit of it got quite stale. There's just so much support in Scotland from the Arts Council and Creative Scotland towards young artists who are pitching innovative ideas, stuff that you just wouldn't, and
there's many Scottish artists here this weekend, I noticed.
Exactly, and I mean, and that feeds into the session scene and kids watching, young kids, really innovative, cool, because, I think when I first saw the Bothy band in Ireland, up until that point, trad music there was a kind of a reverence, a genuflection towards the tradition, and it was very old and very hollow. But then the Bothy band came along, and it was cool. And I think in Scotland, you've got a lot of young musicians who are just thinking, this is just as cool as indie music, or look at these crowds and the energy exchange. So I think Ireland is slowly coming around to the notion that they're getting left behind a little bit. So
it's funny that like the type of music comes from Ireland, and they're having to catch up to the fact that actually it's really moving on, and it's something to be. It's cool. The young kids are into it. Like, come on, catch up. Like, you're the originators.
Yeah, you're going to be left behind if you don't get your finger out. And
So what is your summer looking like this year? I get the impression that people are catching up on the old gigging. They haven't been able to really get out and about too much. Last year there was a little, certainly nothing the year before, and artists just seem to be so busy. Do you count yourself amongst those?
We've been very busy. We had a long tour in April and May, and now we've got a summer of every weekend. We've got 2 festivals pretty much till the middle of August. I think a lot of those festivals were rolled over. Like, this was first booked in 2020, and then they booked us again for 2021, and now they booked us again now. And so there's everything's kind of rolled in together. We've ended up with all the gigs for 3 years in this 1 year. So
Concentrate. Who else are you doing? Where else are you playing this weekend then?
we're going to Ross Trevor tomorrow for Fiddler's Green Festival, so that's back over near Brian's stomping ground. So we're looking forward to that one. And then next week we're at Broadstairs, and then we're going to Lorient in Brittany. We've never been there before, 27 years later. Then that's maybe...
That's quite a bit of zigzagging. I guess this is the problem. If it's your own tour, you can sort of plan out where you're going and go in some kind of sensible order. But if you've been kindly invited to play elsewhere, you have to go where you're invited.
You can't imagine the logistical nightmare of getting the 5 of us into one place for 1 gig or possibly 2 gigs. If we're doing 23 gigs, we all arrive, and then we do the gigs, and we relax, we do the gigs, and then we all go home again. When we come for 1 gig, Brian's in Armagh, John Joe's in Sligo, Ed's in Bath, I'm in London, and our sound engineer lives in Darlington. So with the planes and the trains...
Couldn't find anybody in Plymouth.
Well...
How do you do recording?
Recording is differently, I guess. We just kind of go and hole up somewhere for a little while before, and acclimatise and then do nothing for a while and then have a rest. And then, then we make our move. We're not very, I think because we've been doing it for so long now, we don't get too hysterical about anything.
Everything's just like, easy.
Whatever.
Lockdown, whatever. This isn't going to change anything for us.
I guess rehearsal time as well. You must need to rehearse sometimes. Obviously, if you're playing regularly, maybe not quite so often, but some of the new tracks you've written, people will want to bring those on and make sure that everybody comes in the right place.
We generally don't really rehearse. So in all the 27 years, I could probably count about 6 rehearsals. But Brian would write a tune, or I would write a tune, and as long as we both know the tune and the others, we take it to a sound check, and then Ed and John Joe would strum along. And then the next day we'll do it again, and they'll change it a bit. And then the next day we'll probably think, let's just play this one and see how it goes.
That's amazing. That is like true musicianship. You just have the faith and the trust in each other. You don't need to practice this. It just works. Which leads me on to, why is your band name Flook? I know it's not spelled F-L-U-K-E.
It used to be.
Right. See, now there's a story. Because, did you think this was a fluke, guys, 27 years ago?
Well, it sounded a bit like flute, and whenever it started, it was 3 flutes. So it was Sarah and myself and a great flute player from Manchester called Michael McGoldrick, and then about a year and a half, 2 years in, we got an email from the manager or the someone involved with the techno band from Liverpool called Flook. And he said, guys, what's the big deal with this name? We've got these Morris dancers turning up on our raves looking for you. You're going to have to change your name. We've got tankards and eel and fingers and ears and everything. So we thought maybe we should slightly tweak it, and so Flook.
There we go.
There we go.
It's a story for you if
I
ever
knew,
there
I
was one,
knew
wasn't
there
it?
would be a story.
Now you're on stage 2 a little later on. Is there anybody else who you're sort of wanting to catch before you go on,
Well,
or you've seen already perhaps?
I was enjoying listening to Julie Fowlis singing earlier, and I'm hoping to catch a bit of the spell songs on stage 1. I think they're on quite soon, are they?
I think so.
My teenage daughter is very keen to listen to This Is the Kit. What about you, Brian?
I'd like to hear the Elephant Sessions.
Oh yes, they're very good.
They're doing a big. They've invited us to join their birthday party in September up in the Barrowlands in Glasgow. So, yeah, it'd be nice to catch them here.
Awesome.
Well, Brian and Sarah, thank you both for coming by. We're going to have one more track from you before we close. Maybe you could introduce it for us.
This is a set of waltzes. The first one is called the Crystal Lure, and the second one is inspired by a beautiful windswept, lonely stretch of Cooley Mountain called Carlingford. It's called the Fox's Rock.
Okay, Brian, Sarah from Flook, thanks for joining us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.